In this episode of Wisdom Personified, Conversations with Dudu Msomi, I'm speaking to Santie Botha, one of South Africa's most respected and accomplished business persons. Santie has accomplished numerous firsts and been the youngest in many of her career milestones since graduating from the University of Stellenbosch with a Bachelor and an Honours in Economics, including being appointed to the ABSA board at 34 years, making her the youngest member of the group board. Santie was the youngest Chancellor in South Africa at 48 when she was appointed at the Nelson Metropolitan University. Her roles at present include being Chair of Capitec Bank, Curia Holdings, and Famous Brands. Thank you so much for finally making the time. I was so excited when you said yes.
No, thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, you are always on my list. So I'm so happy we're having this moment. So where did you grow up? Do you have siblings? What were your favorite pastimes as a child?
I grew up in Cape Town.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 elder brothers, no sisters. And, my father passed on when I was 14 years old. So I had 3 men who tried to steer my life. So I suppose, it's like the corporate world came naturally in a bizarre way. To this day, my mom is still alive. She's 94,
how
which is
beautiful
just
is that?
fantastic.
Yeah.
I played tennis. It's like literally from the age of 4, I had a swing ball where I challenged the world. So that's what I did. I didn't spend a lot of time behind my books, but I played ball.
So you could have been one of our champions.
I always say it was my passion, and I played very serious tennis at some stage of my life. So for Western Province and Natal and SA universities, but I was not good enough, to really go on the circuit. And we didn't have the finances. So, but it was my sport, and that's what I did.
Do you still play?
No. And it's the bizarre thing is, people always say when you've played tennis, a lot of people just stop at some stage because you've hit enough balls to last you a lifetime.
Yeah. I used to play tennis, and then I got into squash. And then I couldn't play tennis anymore because I always used to hit the balls out. But I haven't played for years. As you know, African people are not really into squash. So I was struggling to find partners.
Williams sisters.
Tennis, but not squash. It's
squash.
very rare. But no excuse, Dudu. What do you think your unique value proposition is? What makes you memorable and impactful?
I have one of my best friends in business, Sarami Taukobong, always says, it's like sort of your brand or your unique selling proposition is what people say about you when you leave the room. And I think, it's like when people say, oh, I'm this or I do that or stuff like that, that's not really true to self. It's who you are, what people say about you, not what you say about yourself. But I always think, for me, in business, it's, in the old days, people would say, is the person task-orientated or are they people-orientated? And I always think when you're in business, you have to do big things. But what people often think about or forget about the big things, you've got to do the hard thinking first. So if you talk about changing the world, the old saying, or the stuff you do is change life for the better for your stakeholders, whoever they are, you've got to do the hard thinking first. And then you have to say, who do I want on my team? And that's when you employ the very best. And, I always say when you have a B team players, you're going to get B team results. So get your A team and, it's like like-minded individuals, but different skills, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah. When you graduated from University of Stellenbosch with a Bachelor of Economics, what was your career plan?
I didn't have one.
What made you choose that out of all the degrees you could have done?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, actually. It's like, because I just played tennis.
Yeah.
In those years, there was this magnificent boutique in the Golden Acre in the CBD of Cape Town, and it belonged to Barbara Barnard, Chris Barnard's wife, the heart surgeon's wife at the time. And I always used to think, as a little girl, one day I would like to have a boutique like Barbara Barnard. Wow. So that sort of, I always wanted to do business, but I grew up in the household. My father was a headmaster, and my mother sort of a homecraft industry kind of entrepreneur, so not really a business-orientated house. But that was sort of my dream. And that's why I thought when I went to university, let me do a business type degree. So it was really as simple as that. It was, and then life in a bizarre way, I always say when you work hard at anything, really hard, and harder than anybody else, life takes you on very interesting journeys.
Yeah, you kind of get opportunities that you wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah.
Which is...
Because my professor, for example, it's like sort of in my last year at university, he sort of said to me, I did honours in sort of business economics, industrial psychology, sort of a gobbledygook kind of honours degree. And then he said to me, so where are you going to go when you finish your honours degree? And I said, I don't know. And he said, are you interested in banking, or what are you interested in? I said, well, I don't mind. Anything business will do. And then my first job interview was, strangely enough, with Barclays in those years. And
interesting.
Yeah, and I got the job when they were still Barclays. And then my other second interview was with Unilever in Durban. And Unilever for me was sort of, I thought, I don't want to sell soap.
That's what you think of,
Yeah, I don't want to sell soap, especially detergents. Yeah. And in the end, I was on the food side, which was, I just loved it. Yes. And it's literally, marketing was like a fish to water.
Which is it? I was also interviewed by Unilever.
Oh, yeah.
And not the first time, I decided in advertising rather, first time round. And then later in my life, again, they called me and they said, we really want you, but your personality, I don't think we can put you in a single brand. Your personality is just not for that. They thought of another role, but somebody was in that role. So I thought, okay. They keep coming.
Yeah.
Do you still subscribe to the philosophy that in life, the only thing you can choose is family? Everything else is about choices and timing.
The only thing you cannot choose.
Oh, you cannot choose.
Is family.
Yeah, well, I choose my family. This is interesting because subconsciously, I do believe that I chose the family that I was born into. And this is interesting.
That's interesting.
That this is how because it says cannot, but I still say can choose. Yeah. Because I do believe it.
That's interesting. No, for me, it's the only thing you cannot choose is your family because you're born into it. I've always believed, I believe in reinvention all the time. You only have one life and you have to make some hard choices sometimes. So I chose very early on in my life that I'm not going to have kids. Actually, I also chose that I wasn't going to get married. But that it was all just business. But then I, married my best friend at a much later stage of my life. But it's, and I always say when you move countries or when you move careers, I've never been in a war situation where if you talk about that's really big choices. And, but in terms of the choices one makes in life, there's always risk involved. Because if there's no risk involved, my kind of choices, then it's not a big decision. So other little choices you make, you get on with it. But I always say my big decisions and my big choices and the timing I've made those, there were always risk involved. And I was always happy after, so years later, to say that I made those because that's how you grow.
No regrets.
No regrets. I have sort of a few regrets in my life, I suppose, where I probably should have studied harder academically at school and university.
But nobody remembers the grades.
Yeah, but it's for self, really. Yeah. And sort of, if I have my life over, maybe spend less time on the tennis court and a few extra hours behind my books. But, next life.
A nice balance. during our MBA, there were a few who were very serious. The whole idea, I think, is to be able to find a balance.
Sure.
So there's one who kind of got many distinctions. Some of us got 2 or 3, not 2, like 7. And she says, though, Dudu, the one thing I do regret is that I didn't enjoy it more.
Interesting.
And a lot of us
Yeah.
enjoyed, like we really enjoyed each other.
Yeah.
That even years later, you can just pick up a call,
Sure.
be on WhatsApp, and you really enjoy people. And so that's part of the education as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoy that. You have found the evolution of Bangalore, especially at that time, which was seen as the center of the tech industry in India, inspiring. Can you briefly tell us, as your audience, the story about it, what made it so interesting for you? But for us as South Africans, what do you think stands in our way of having such visionary ambitions?
Sure, that's a big question as well, Dudu. It's like Bangalore, Bengaluru, what they're called, or what the city is called. I think it's just such a phenomenal story in terms of a vision of a country to say, invest in education, in this particular area, because it comes with this vast, rich, amazing history, also being India and, with the British and everything else. But how they've played it forward to say the investment from government in education, good universities in the area. Then because it was really sort of a manufacturing the city.
Before.
Before. And it's like how businesses were subsidized to say it was a vision in terms of what you wanted to do with this place, and the caliber of people that you wanted there. And, with emphasis, it's like sort of homegrown, massive ICT business. And, it's like success breeds success. And then the more and more businesses that came into the fore in the late 20th century, with more investment from government, more investment in education, and then there's the side stuff as well, enticing other businesses, aerospace and whatever else, to also come to Bengaluru. And, it's food, it's sandalwood, it is the parks, it's everything about the city.
It's like a whole ecosystem that grows around it.
But it started as a vision.
Yes.
To say vision in terms of that's what we would like to become, the Silicon Valley of India, and then you say, you go to California and there's Silicon Valley, but there's the wine, Napa Valley, and you've got da. So in South Africa, we have a phenomenal wine valley industry in the Cape. And then you say, where's our Silicon Valley as South Africa? Why don't we have one? We have all these bright sparks. We have all, it's like formidable universities still.
Yes.
Still, and we must protect it, and we must say, in this digital space, because the world is digital, where's our investment in research? Where's our investment in quality people? Where you say, when you talk data scientists, I see the demand and the need for it in South Africa, in corporate South Africa. And a lot of youngsters leave the country to go to booking.com in the Netherlands, to go to whichever, because the demand is so enormous. There must be a reason for them to stay. And that is that whole thing of, I always like the Denzel Washington when he says you have to fall forward, you have to move forward, you have to have a big vision of what you want to be when you grow up. And I don't see it, so when you see, say for me, South Africa, our Silicon Valley, in terms of, because it's not us, it's the youth. And it's the youth that should say, oh, I want to be there. I want to be part of that. And that's what we need to create as businesses. So you can create what you can in pockets. But when you create a Silicon Valley, it's a unified vision across many things. And it needs to be supported from a government point of view as well, to make it worthwhile. Your youngsters, your unicorns, where's the investment, the support and everything else. So instead of pockets, this, whole vision from a government perspective as well, to say, That's what we want as well in our country.
Is that audacious ambition, I always say? I mean, we're just talking with Lerato, who I know you know, Malebati, and we're talking about fast speed rail from Cape to Cairo. The ambition of being able to travel this continent, and for Africans to have the ambition to say, we don't need to go to other continents and countries to see this. It must happen here. It is quite sad that we haven't, but hey, the inspiration is, if you're watching, please be part of that, sowing the seeds.
You know, now that you say that, I've just, last month, we traveled in Namibia. When you talk about, my views, it's the best country in the world to travel to, because you have the infrastructure, whether it's tarmac or dirt roads or anything, is superb. Even your parks, you know, comparatively speaking, is next level, amazing. You know, and the beauty of the country is quite incredible. And then you just say how the system works. It's so easy to do, and you're safe. You know, it's like sort of, the whole notion of security never crosses your mind.
Yeah.
And I just think, and how seriously they take tourism as an industry in that country. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, once again, is visionary to say that's what we want to be. And the number of international tourists and tourists from Southern Africa,
they are
there.
I haven't been since 2004. Yeah, I was just at Sardini, and the whole thing of safety.
Yeah.
You could see the two South Africans that were there. We were busy locking things and not leaving our purses there. South Africa, we have to change. We usually refer to the concept of the Old Boys Club to explain the support for each other and the advantage of white males particularly have over other groupings in corporate. Do you believe in that concept, first of all? Would women be more widely represented in leadership positions if they had such a club, or does such a club already exist?
For me, if I look at successful businesses that I've been involved in, the more diverse the leadership core, the more successful the business is, because you understand your market better. Because unless you're in female underwear, or, you know, it's like sort of very niche specific products for a niche market, your business and your board and your people can look like that. But when you service the world, you know, usually your market is from diverse religions, gender, age, whatever else. And that's what your business inside should look like as well. Yeah. With the experience that goes with it. So I have a particular view in terms of boards, where you have people, boards or executive management. Citizens of the world employ citizens of the world.
Okay.
When people are used to a particular way of doing business, and that's the way, what they've been used to for 20 years, that's what they're going to stick to. So for them to change that is very difficult. And that's why even when change is forced on them, they don't like it. So, but I have a philosophy, broad-minded people that's traveled well, embrace diversity. And that's how I look at people. And sometimes I feel, okay, it's my job in terms of boards that I chair to help educate. And that's when I sort of say also, you have to employ best in class when it comes to diversity, so that the people you put around the table are better than some of the, what you would call the old boys club. But so I never refer to an old boys club or us women needs a club. I basically say, for me, it's always about get the best possible people to educate people that's not used to diversity. Because
if they see the example in action,
they want more.
Yes.
They want
I totally
more.
buy into that, which is so unfortunate. I always say it's always unfortunate that when you choose the worst of the lot, it then justifies the stereotype,
Exactly.
which is, I hope they're listening.
Or when you put people in positions where they need to be educated,
Yeah.
it's unfair.
Yeah.
You know, where I sort of feel when you come in at a particular level, you have to compete at that level with anybody.
Yeah.
You shouldn't then come in at the level
To be trained.
to be trained, because then immediately the trainers say, oh, well,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's not really at our
But
level.
there's always a difference between training and inducting somebody into that particular culture. Because sometimes I think people like systems and processes are different. When I started my career in advertising, and me and Sue, she was a white female, black female, came in at the same time, kind of similar background. And even though we have the same theory, you still need to be inducted. Processes in advertising are totally different. And you found that they were, this particular individual used to be very happy training her, but with me, it's like she expected me to know.
Oh.
And then she'll have an attitude that I don't know. So, but it's amazing how I understood that psychology of what she was doing. I didn't, and I just embraced it.
Sure.
And then over time, you kind of...
Educate back.
Yeah, but then you're so amazing in your performance that they feel embarrassed that they even had that thought. So it's
Exactly.
good.
No, I love that.
Yeah. I have been given feedback when pursuing board positions and have not been successful, despite being told that I came across as strong and positively, that my shortcomings are the lack of experience or track record in whatever sector, if it's not the sector that I'm seen to be experienced in. Which makes me wonder about the value of diversity, because I always think, gosh, diversity, and even my MBA thesis was around corporate diversity on boards especially. You seem to be able to move across diverse industries. What wisdom can you share on how you've overcome such obstacles?
Yeah, I mean, the three industries that I've spent a lot of time in is obviously FMCG, cum retail, banking, and telecoms. And education is my passion, and it's always been. I grew up in a household of educators. So, and that's what I stick to.
Yeah.
So, you know, in all of those, I've spent many years. And, you know, when I look at opportunities from a business perspective, be it board, be it consulting, whatever it is at this stage of my life, it's in those industries. I'm not going to go into mining. I know it's not my passion. I don't know enough about it. I can't really contribute at a board level. I can maybe contribute on financial stuff, but it's not an industry that I've ever immersed myself in. So I stick to industries that I know well, that I've passed a few standards, hopefully, and that I can really contribute, particularly at board level. Because the important thing, and it's what I said earlier, when you a non-executive director on a board, the management team needs to have respect for your ability, your skill, and your experience. Because I know what I was like when I was an executive and I had to interact with board members who didn't know what they were talking about. Because I'm in the business. I know the business. I live, eat, breathe that business 24/7. Now you see board members on a quarterly basis, and then they impart their knowledge and try and tell you what to do. And sometimes you think, really? So I remember that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's important when you go into an industry and you say, okay, that's where I'm going to play. It's stuff you know well, and you can seriously contribute, because then you're also taken seriously.
Yeah. I must say, I just had a interface with the global chair of Vodafone.
Oh, yeah.
And he came from a beverage industry. And I asked him exactly the same thing. And he says there are always common threads. You know, you want to connect with the market. There are some things and technically you may not be proficient, but part of the stupid questions that I ask, moves them forward because they're like, oh, okay, we've never thought about it because they're so entrenched. And I buy into that totally because that's what diversity is.
Sure.
Because you're not so entrenched. So both of them are good. So it's about finding the balance because also in advertising, you work on diverse clients and you're not an expert.
Sure.
So you have to learn very quickly and you become, I mean, I still can't pour petrol in particular places because my client was Indian. I can't drink another drink because I worked on Pepsi. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yes, because you just get immersed into a new client, you know. But anyway, and then the other card, which I'll not mention, which is also my client. So you say when you open your mouth, I love this one, you have something to say. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's sort of, you know, often, and I'm sure you've seen it a lot, is people will finish each other's sentences or repeat what has been said already. And then I often think, you know, be original. Be original in what you do in life, in business, you know, and think about stuff. Read widely, know, instead of think you know, or you've heard something and now you repeat it. Because often sometimes, you know, if I look at some of the stuff my nieces and nephews send me on TikTok little videos, then I look at it and then 10 minutes later, the same one, and I think, gosh, you know, are you all on the same platform or are you just wasting my time? And so I always think, be original, create something yourself, think about something yourself. So when somebody says that, you know, it's like when you think of Steve Jobs way back when he said, you know, I did calligraphy and then I did this and I managed to connect the dots with IT, with the beauty in terms when I created the Apple Mac and blah, 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 you know, and then I just think that skill of connecting the dots when you think about something is your own thought, because you've read widely, you've experienced stuff, you've experienced life, you've traveled to countries which other people have never even thought about, and you've got a picture in your head. So when you say something, it's like, whoa, I've not heard that before. And maybe something you've thought about right now. It's like a epiphany.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. And you can see people often in business is to say, okay, I've done this in my life, I've been there, I've seen that, blah, 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 blah. What you said earlier, your Vodafone example. And you ask the question, and sometimes I think the question that Dudu's just asked, I wonder where that comes from in terms of the Filofax.
Yeah.
Because it's original.
Yeah. Garrett Ackerman is one of my mentors whom I enjoy thoroughly. And he said, because when I started Busara Leadership Partners, my consulting firm, he's like, most of us really know our businesses. So when you come to us, you really have to be adding value. And he said the one thing that is really not distinctive is the quality of questioning. If you come to me and you ask me questions that make me look at my business in a different way, you are adding value.
Exactly.
And so it has been my thing to always think of the right questions and see businesses in different ways so that when you're asking something or you're saying, oh, have you thought of this? They're like, oh, okay, she can add value.
Exactly.
Instead of just regurgitating models and theories.
Exactly.
Totally get that. But don't you just laugh when people quote quotes? And it's like, it's not your idea. At least accord the respect to say, hey, bye.
No, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, for me always, you always have to think is, people that's been around the block many times have seen all the houses many, many times. So if you come to them and you say, talk about some or other piece of architecture that's in that block, okay, they've studied it actually. Yeah. So then you really have to be original.
Yeah,
so,
you're in trouble. You know, you've clocked a number of firsts and also being the youngest in many areas in terms of your career. What about your character has resulted in these achievements?
My character? By nature, I'm very competitive. So I'm also very competitive with myself, you know. So I would, like sometimes when a friend of mine or my husband will say, why are you giving me such a hard time? And then I'd say, well, if you think I'm giving you a hard time, imagine the hard time I give myself on stuff, you know. And it's not, you know, the term perfectionist, I think, is very much yesterday. But it's more a question of, you only have one life. And I always, you know, it's probably the older one gets, but you say you have one life, so you have to pack it in. So if you say in terms of what I've done with my life is I pack it in. I always think I work harder than most. I prepare more than most. I see you very well prepared, Dudu.
Yeah. So I'm actually thinking, gosh, the preparation that goes into your board pack.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I prepare, but I always have. So
Second nature to you.
it's second nature to me. So you just have to work harder and prepare better and think out of the box and all that kind of stuff. And the words you used earlier in terms of adding value, and to say when you're in a business is, where's the business winning? Where are they winning? Where should they be winning? Why are they not winning there? What's wrong? What should they be thinking about? You know, it's like, who can help? If they can't help, then maybe you should think about something else. So it's always finding solutions to move forward and to grow the business forward, you know. And if mistakes are made, fix it quickly.
Yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes make mistake twice, not 3 times. But I always say, you know, if someone makes the same mistake twice, it's still okay, as long as it's a different kind of mistake in the same field, but not 3 times. And as long as you learn from it, and that whole thing of moving forward.
Yeah. Instead of complaining, gosh. That energy, I'm like, it's the same kind of energy. Just put it into, like, give it a moment, cry, but like move on.
Yeah.
It's like my thing, like,
exactly.
I can't do that. What's the most courageous decision you've taken in life thus far? And what drove you to that decision?
You know, I always think the word courage in Afrikaans is waagmoed. You know, which is a beautiful word. You weet, and so I never look at choices and decisions as courageous, because for me, courage I associate with war. I don't know. It's something in my head. It's like that. That's when you talk about real courage. The decisions and choices you make in life is more just about personal risk. And you just, as I said earlier, you know, the choices and the timing when you make your choices and decisions is the risk you take on yourself, because you're not going to lose your life just in normal life decisions. And get on with it. You know, it's like sort of often in life decisions, it's yes, there's risk. If it doesn't work, well, make a different decision.
Yeah.
But get on with it.
Now I'm stuck on waag. So why is the definition of that?
Waagmoed. So waag is challenge. Okay, so it's a challenge. Moed is help me here. What is yeah, it's the personal
and you
will.
can like feel it.
Yeah, it's a personal will that's what you want to do. So it's the combination of the two, and that's why waagmoed sits very comfortably with me.
Okay. Double A or 1A? It's the double A.
Double A.
Because I got stuck on the 1A, so that's why I got stuck. Okay. I still remember my Afrikaans. It was actually my favorite. Nommer asseblief. I grew up on
Oh my word. Yeah.
Sorry, it's just my thing.
No, because when I joined Unilever, my English was shocking.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like sort of that took a while just to, you know, once again.
And achter man, I used to love it. Kevin, I used to love it. Yeah, so my mom used to say, now, if you're going to be watching all Afrikaans films and we can't understand, what do you want us to do? I'm like, doesn't matter. Anyway, moving on. What is your biggest insecurity?
I think, you know, insecurities you have when you're young. And you need to get over it. Because insecurities, as I just said, about my command of the English language. When I joined Unilever, I was at one stage, I went through a phase where I didn't want to open my mouth because I couldn't string my sentences together properly. And then you just read more books and practice. You know, it's like sort of, that's the whole, if you play competitive sport, it's practice, practice, practice until you're comfortable with the language, because then you don't have to think about the language, you can just speak. You know, and it's, I always say one should be grateful for what you have. But in our teens and our 20s, you're still finding your feet, and you still have to say, okay, like, I'm not as pretty as that girl, or I'm not as smart as that girl, or I can't run as fast as that one. But then grow up, you know, and move on with life, because there's a lot of people with a lot more insecurities or a lot less natural and fortunate things that you have. And that was one of my mother's sayings, you know, be grateful for what you have, work hard and make the most of it, you know, and that's what you always have to think. So insecurities, when you get older, is surely you've parked it. Yeah. You've parked it when you were teens and 20s.
Yeah.
And actually, if I have my life, once again, if I have my life over 20s, you shouldn't worry so much what other people think. You know, and I don't know whether it's a boy and girl thing, but I think a lot of girls, and now with social media, you know, this whole, what someone said to me, at the school thing the other day was, you know, Santie, the one thing you don't realize, when you grew up, you went on holiday with your family. Kids today, when they go on holiday with 1,500 people, or depending on how many people that's with them on their social media networks. And then you think, that's a scary thought, you know. So
I actually never thought about it that way.
Every move you make, people are watching, and they're giving a running commentary, which, if it's positive, is great. If it's negative, as a young kid,
it's like,
sure, it's hard.
You play it over and over.
Hard.
Yeah. You participated in the Inca Trail in the Machu Picchu to help raise funds for students to do their final year at Nelson Mandela University. And I must also add that you also contributed 100,000 outside of raising money for other people. What wisdom did you learn about yourself during that hike?
You know, I love South America.
I haven't been. Next on my list.
Do yourself a favor. I love South, because it's also so diverse, you know, and it's foreign to us. You know, it's like we travel a lot on the continent, we travel in Europe, you go to North America, blah, blah, blah. South America is so unique, every single country. But for me, the history of the Incas it's a formidable people to start off with. Then there's the majestic Andes, you know, which is say 7 kilometers up in the sky. We've got the Drakensberg, which is 3.3 kilometers up in the sky, and it's just, you feel so small. And to say you walk the path of the Incas to get to Machu Picchu, for me was just, it was surreal, and a lot of time you walk with your own thoughts, which is something completely different. So the experience itself was phenomenal. The cause, you know, because I always think if you're a top student and you don't have the financial meal, it's completely unfair for you not to be able to finish your studies. So someone has to help. And I always think, well, if I can be that someone, I'm happy to do that.
That was really a kind thing to do. I was really impressed with that. We almost can talk forever. I mean, this is a masterclass, people. I hope you're enjoying it. What legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I'm not the legacy kind of person. Yeah, I'm not a legacy kind of person. You know, I always say I get on with life. And, you know, it's like you do what you have to do. So sort of whether I'm in education or whether I'm in banking or whether I'm in consulting or, you know, Africa Leadership University, I'll tell you a funny or interesting story once. And it once again just showed my age. I was with this amazing chap, Fred Zwaneke. You should interview him, from Africa Leadership Academy and then university that he was starting up. So one of his super bright spark students, he was around about 19, and they were all at the time sort of 90% pluses. I said to him, oh, the competition amongst you must be so fierce because you're all so smart from all over the continent, you know, solving the continent's issues. And he looked at me as, you know, it's like, what's my problem? And he said, no, ma'am, there's no competition here. Here it's about compassion and collaboration.
Oh, boy.
And I thought, take that, Santie, you know, kind of thing. But it's true, you know, and the way they work together in groups and projects to get to the best solution, because this one brings that, that one brings that. It's not mine is better than yours and I'm winning and you losing. Yes. No, it's sort of collaboratively, how do we solve it and understand your market in terms of what's required. So, yeah, and I mean, for me, that's legacy work. Yes. If you say what Fred is doing in terms of, you know, it's like millions of well-educated young people that want to make a difference on the continent. That's the dream. So I always say, if I can play a little role there and a little role there, I'm happy.
I think your legacy is actually spreading kindness, and many of us are not aware of where you are actually planting your kindness. I know you don't like getting the accolades for it, but we know you spread kindness where you can. This question I really want to ask before we end. You believe that people should be promoted because they are the best in class. What is the most objective way of determining and appreciating someone as the best in class in diverse environments where individuals can hold prejudicial beliefs? And we have a lot of that in our corporate South Africa.
Scoreboard.
Scoreboard.
I have a very simple philosophy about that, is show me what you've done, but not verbiage. The real stuff. And, you know, also when I talk in corporates that I'm involved in, your KPIs, your budget, you know, it's like sort of what you've done in terms of innovation, what you've done in terms of helping your teams grow, proper grow, what have you done around diversity, employment equity. So show me your scorecard. And then I can say, are you a fully rounded business leader? Or do you focus on little snippets that's worth your while, or do you look at the whole picture? And I always look at scoreboard. That's all. And then for me, from cut above the rest, I do everything to make sure that you move upwards or wherever you want to, wherever you want to move. Because sometimes people say, you know what, I've specialized in this area. I'm not interested in that job. But I'm interested in growing myself. So give me an opportunity there. If you've proved that you've done everything humanly possible here, why not? And that's the role of leaders. You have to make sure that your best in class gets all the opportunities, because they help the country. They don't just help the business, they help the country.
Move us forward. I must say the best training. My first CEO was William Leach. And every year he invited me to tell him what value I'm bringing. Not about the other team members. What did you do? And so I had to learn, because most times we need to be coy about what we do. But also articulating the value bringing was very difficult. And then I could tell him how much I want to take home. I mean, he almost destroyed me for any other boss in the future, because that conversation you really do not have. And so when you're saying the scorecard, it's still difficult even now, but it's a good way of thinking that as the young people, if you are watching, keep a scorecard of your own stuff as well, so that you're able to articulate it back. In closing, though, you wanted to add something.
If I can add something, and you know, and it's a habit that I taught myself about 25 years ago. Now I'm really showing my age again, but is I set KPIs for myself every year. My own KPIs. I don't need other people to set me KPIs. I set my own KPIs. So be it in all the different spheres that is important to me. So you can choose whatever it is. So be it travel, be it finance, be it business, be it growth, be it new stuff to learn, da-di-da. And then end of the year, I go back to my KPIs and see, and it's me scoring self to say, what have you done around it? And then also I do a write-up of the year that's been, and it's just for myself.
Yeah.
I don't share it with anybody. And I'm not going to publish my memoirs, and probably at some stage of my life I'll shred them all. But for me, it's just bringing closure every year and setting my new goals for the new year, because I always think that's personal growth.
Yeah.
And that's also when people say to you in corporate often, and I'm sure you've had it, where, what should I do with my career? Or how can you help me with figuring out X, Y, Z? And then my retort was always, what's your plan?
Yeah.
Where do you want to end up? Give me where you want to end up, and then I can tell you whether you're on the right path or not. But that's only my opinion.
Yes.
You still have to decide.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's just an anecdote.
I think I enjoy that. Yeah, I like that. I'm a planner, and also I like ticking off.
Sure.
And it was interesting. I just communicated to a friend of mine that I had set some financial goals, and I was like, golly, except for one, all of them accomplished. I was like,
Wow, impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the billions in the bank, those particular financial goals, but yeah. So I was like, wow, so it can be done.
Yeah.
I know I can do it. But that's really a good tip in terms of we're so busy waiting for other people to mark us and tell us what we should do. This is your life, which is why I like personal leadership. Thank you so much. So in closing, what wisdom would you like to leave us with?
Wisdom. Yeah. Second best should never be good enough for you, for yourself. You should always say, if the best I can do is my very best. That's all you can do in life, is your very, very best, whatever you give. So therefore, you should never give second best, when you say something is good enough, and you should never accept second best either. So in whatever you do, so whether you travel or whether you in a business situation, or whether you get feedback or you see someone is ill prepared, if someone's not ready, or they give you a quick 5 minutes of their time, tell them to wait. You'll come back when they're prepared, and you want their very best as well. So that will be my piece of advice. Just always say, never ever settle for second best in anything you do.
Yeah, especially relationships.
Anything you do.
We get told that, oh gosh, you're too fussy. It's your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I never settle for second best.
Thank you. This
Thank
is why
you.
we're not settling for anything but you.
Dudu, and you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's been awesome. It's a rare privilege, because I know you don't do this often, but I'm really happy for the people that are watching this around the world. We have amazing leaders in our country. I hope you have enjoyed this reflective and insightful conversation. It is a rare privilege to have a sit down with Santie, such a wise, powerful brand and a business person from South Africa. Thank you for making time for this episode of Wisdom Personified Conversations with Dudu Msomi. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Click on the bell notification to be informed when our next episode is available. Wisdom Personified Conversations with Dudu Msomi is also now available on Facebook Watch, Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. Enjoy the wisdom journey.